Hello again. Whenever you choose to go to a trouble spot like the Gaza Strip, even if your motives are charitable and good, you must accept that you are putting yourself at hazard. I know about this because I lived for some time near Rafah and as a consequence was nearly killed twice, once by an Israeli soldier and once by Palestinian guerrillas. I was living on a settlement called Talmei Yosef between a new town called Yamit in the northern Sinai and Rafah. The thumbnail to this video shows the perimeter fence of Talmei Yosef. It was the bleakest place you can possibly imagine. Nothing but sand surrounded by a barbed wire fence for defence. We had soldiers stationed at Talmei Yosef, and one day one of them had a breakdown. He was a nice enough guy, but he had a 1,000-yard stare, and he was always looking into the distance over your shoulder in search of enemies. So it was quite disconcerting speaking to him. You'd be talking to him and he'd be looking across your shoulder like that, scanning the area to see if anyone was trying to kill him. One night he went completely mad and began firing at shadows. He emptied the magazine of his Uzi near my place. It's a submachine gun. Taking out the windows in the process. Of course, being young at the time, this was in 1979, a month or two before the peace treaty was signed with Egypt, I took it in my stride. But I wasn't sorry when he was taken off to a mental hospital. Of course, in retrospect, I could easily have been killed. A month later, on February the 27th, I was in Tel Aviv and got the bus to El Arish, which called at all the settlements in the northern Sinai, Sadat, Natiba Sarat, Talmei Yosef, and so on. 10 minutes after I got off at Talmei, a bomb exploded on the bus, destroying the back of it where I had been sitting. This was one of the more narrow escapes I had at that time. Why am I telling these anecdotes? It's simple. There is currently a lot of fuss about the 3 British men who were killed in Gaza. I don't doubt for a moment that their motives in going to the area were very good and that they genuinely hoped to help. They were doing what they thought was the right thing to do. That doesn't really matter though, because the Gaza Strip is, and has been for the last 50 years or so, a very dangerous place. I'm sure that they knew this when they chose to go there. I went to that part of the world for my own ideological reasons, but had I been killed by that mad Israeli or blown up by an IED, then I would really have brought it on myself. If you hang around Gaza long enough, that kind of thing does tend to happen. I'm afraid my blood would have been upon my own head. The previous autumn, I'd been in a remote part of Turkey, up in the mountains behind Bursa, working on a project to bring piped water into a village so that the people wouldn't be dependent on a nearby stream for their water. The country was more or less in a state of civil war at that time. This was September 1978. Ecevit was Prime Minister then. And the project for which I was working was run by communists. In a nearby village, people from the same organisation with which I was involved were murdered by fascists. Again, this is what happens if you get mixed up in other people's wars. I have every sympathy with the families of those who were killed in Gaza, but having been in that very situation, I'm also aware that this was a result of individuals choosing to take a chance and then coming a cropper as a consequence. It happens.